ARC Junkies presents Weld Wednesday with AWS, brought to you by the American Welding Society. And now your host, Jason Becker.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Weld Wednesdays with AWS. Today's episode is all about building your professional network through the American Welding Society. And I couldn't think of a better group to come and talk about building your network than the individuals in my own network. I met all of today's guests at an AWS hosted event, and since that time, the contacts, friends, and acquaintances we've met have allowed us to take our careers to the next level. I'd like to introduce my good friend Travis Jumper from Lewis and Clark Community College in Godfrey, Illinois, Stephanie Hoffman from the AWS Foundation, who also runs the Careers in Welding trailer, and Jeremy Whittemore with Lift Tech in Louisiana. So today I want to talk all about networking and building your network. I think that's one of the key benefits that I've got out of becoming an AWS member. So we all actually met up at the Instructors Institute by getting involved in our sections first. So, the first step is obviously getting involved with your local AWS section. But from there, we were all afforded the same opportunity to attend the Instructors Institute down in Miami, Florida in 2016. I think that's when we all met up.
I believe so, yeah.
Yep. But so I want to get everybody's kind of backstory. So Travis, go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and then how and why you got involved with AWS.
Yeah, so my name is Travis Jumper. I'm an associate professor of welding technology at Lewis and Clark Community College in Godfrey, Illinois. I'm a part of the St. Louis section of the AWS. I'm currently the chairman of the section. I've been chairman the last 2 years. I joined our St. Louis section back in 2013, which is right after I started the program here at the community college. Prior to that, I was a ag teacher, so I didn't do much with the AWS before because I did most of my work with the national, FFA and things like that. So, but once I got into the college and started teaching full time as a welding instructor, I really started to see the benefits of being part of the AWS and getting involved in our section in our area. So 2013 is pretty much when I got my start.
Okay, and Stephanie?
Yeah, so my name is Stephanie Hoffman. I work for now the American Welding Society in the foundation. I'm the program manager of workforce development. Basically, I travel the country on the Careers in Welding trailer and also handle a lot of the welder workforce grants and networking with the different schools to make sure that they get their funds and everything squared away for getting their shops outfitted with new equipment and all types of other stuff that they use their grants for. But how I got my start with the AWS was, nearly 20 years ago when I was actually a welding student. It's kind of when I was introduced to the AWS with having to take actual, certifications and whatnot. I think my first start was D11 structural steel. And from then on, I was always actually terrified of the AWS. Every time I heard it, I was like, oh, gosh, no.
They're going to fail me.
Meet some people. It's just like teenage me now. So that was always a really daunting thing. And then I started to meet some of the actual people within my section at some meetings when I was in high school. And then my career kind of went away of not so much structural in the sense of meeting welding codes, I guess. So then I kind of fell back into needing AWS in my life when I became a welding instructor at Salem County Votech down in South Jersey. And through my little experience that I had back in high school of knowing about the AWS section, I decided to reach out and I got pretty involved with my section and ended up, dragging my students out to a lot of the different monthly events that they were having. And I always thought it was such a good opportunity for them to network with possible employers, get their face and their name out there, shake hands with the people that actually do the hiring. And my students actually saw a pretty good value in that networking that they were getting. And I had quite a few end up landing jobs from their experiences coming out to local meetings. And then, like you were saying, Jason, we kind of all met at the Instructors Institute, which I had no idea even existed at the time. My district director reached out to me and was like, hey, would you be interested in applying to go out to that? And he's like, it's a week in Miami, you don't have to pay for anything. It's like, heck yeah, sign me up. So went out and I met all you guys and I don't know, we all just clicked, didn't we?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just kind of, and then it was just kind of history from there. And then, me and my big blabbermouth just kept preaching about the change I thought was needed in the AWS and the organization, and what the image really was kind of not what I thought was up to snub for the welding community. And somebody listened, and I got a phone call asking if I actually wanted to come out and work for the AWS. So my role within my section these days isn't as active because I'm doing things on a much bigger scale now. So, but yeah, that's kind of me and my ties to the AWS.
Okay, and Jeremy?
Hey, so Jeremy Whittemore, currently out of Gonzales, Louisiana. I do work for a company called Lift Tech. So I'm the current chairman, the previous previous chairman, previous treasurer, previous second vice chair, first vice, you name it. I've done just about everything in the Baton Rouge section. But yeah, so my story is very similar to Steph's, as far as how I got into AWS, and kind of how that plays a huge part into my networking and kind of where I'm at and where I came from. So in 2005, I was introduced to AWS through my welding instructor, and I've been hooked ever since. The very last semester of my college, my funding, if you will, I was having to get funding because I was a broke college kid. My parents couldn't pay for my school, so I was getting funding through federal government, and they decided that they weren't going to pay anymore, and it was my last semester. So talked to my teacher, and I applied for an American Welding Society scholarship and was accepted. So because of AWS, that is the only reason that I was able to finish and graduate and basically get to where I am now. So I've always been forever grateful for that. And I said in my speech, whenever I was presenting myself to the board to try and get that scholarship, if you do grant me this request, if you do help me to be able to finish my college, I will forever be grateful, and I will do everything in my power to always promote AWS. And they did. And I've held up my end of the bargain too. I've always tried to do my best to promote AWS, because I truly do believe in what they're trying to do, what they stand for. Anyway, fast forward to me being asked if I wanted to go to the Instructors Institute. Because of all of my networking throughout the Baton Rouge section in the local areas, everybody agreed that they wanted to send me there. And I was blessed to have met all of y'all. To this day, I mean, I don't know where I'd be without knowing all of y'all. Y'all are fantastic. But anyway, yeah, because of that, because of the networking opportunities within my section, but also within the national AWS organization, I've been able to get 3 of my previous jobs because of networking. And I always stress that to all of my students, how important it was to put yourself out there, to be able to say, hey, look, I'm so-and-so, and I do have this background, and not being afraid to speak up, not being afraid to put yourself out there and really show people that you do truly want something, because I'm such an introvert. But anyway, yeah, that's always been, a huge thing that I've always pushed for, is the importance of networking and trying to make a name for yourself, and not just building yourself up, but being able to kind of prove that you're worth it, prove that, once you get that foot in the door, that you really can take advantage of it. So, as with everything, I truly feel blessed to have met y'all, to be where I'm at, and thankful for what AWS has done for me.
And then you went on to pursue your CWI, CWS, and CWE with them. So, I mean, you've got credentials that, so that whole pathway with the scholarship, the network and everything, that kind of opened up some additional doors for you to get some industry recognized credentials, and then kind of, take that next step in your career path.
Yep. Just did my 9-year recertification this past December. So, yeah, it's couldn't believe that it had been that long, but yeah, it's come in handy. I use with so I'm actually co-owner of an inspection company, and I utilize my certs and my background and my knowledge base and all that on a daily basis, because I'm still teaching. I my main role, my employment right now is not welding. I do rigging, signal person, safety training with the company, but on the side, I'm still doing welding training and I'm still doing inspection training. So I'm able to utilize, all that, my CWI, my CWS, my CWE through that.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of want to go back to, when we were talking about networking, you being an introvert. I know I'm introverted as well. And Travis, he's introverted. Stephanie, she's kind of like, the exception of the rule. She's like a little social butterfly. But I think that's
no. I'm only comfortable in my circle. You put me in some situation where I don't feel comfortable. You're lucky to get a peep out of me.
Right, but
I was being facetious.
I think that's
y'all know that I am 100% not an introvert. So.
Well, with a glass of whiskey, then everybody starts coming out,
Well, that's true. That's true.
But no, I think that's the main hang up as people are apprehensive to get involved with any organization or, because they've got that introvert mentality, that you're kind of afraid to walk up and shake somebody's hand and introduce yourselves. But I'm telling you, once you can kind of get past that, doors just seem to open up, because it wasn't, I think I'd been to maybe 3 or 4 of our section meetings down here in Florida. And we used to go up to Ocala all the time for the North Central Florida section meetings. Probably after 3 or 4 meetings, I was given the same opportunity. Hey, you're an educator. Would you like to attend the Instructors Institute? I was, yeah, tell me a little bit about it. They told me. We went down there, met you all, and it's not just us 4 here. Our network that we met, during that meeting, there's quite a few people in the group, and it's just amazing, just that 1 week, how close we all got together. We still meet up all the time, but it's just like one opportunity after the next. So it was the Instructors Institute. A year later, I got to do the Leadership Symposium because I was getting ready to go to or become active in our section, because we started the one in Central Florida. And I know Stephanie was taking on a new role with her section. And Travis, you've been the chairman for yours.
Director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's just, there's just so many different opportunities once you start getting involved that I would have never been exposed to had I not decided to bring my students with me to a couple of AWS meetings. Just kind of pushing them and saying, hey, look, here's some of the opportunities. Since then, I've had many of them, get scholarships through the AWS, through the foundation. I've had students, reach out and get careers right out of the welding program. They're coming up on graduation. They're attending a section meeting. You got an employer sitting in the same room. They connect. They start talking. Next thing you know, people are getting jobs. There's just all kinds of different benefits to networking. But I think the biggest hang up is that first initial, putting your hand out there. Hi, my name is so-and-so, and, here's what I do. But I think it just kind of came to us all natural, because we all had a love for welding. We all had a passion for teaching, and a passion for, giving our students a little bit more than we had when we were kind of coming up through the ranks.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And what was sad is with our section meetings, it started enrollment started to kind of declining, and what was sad, but it was a good thing, is that the majority of the people that were at the meetings were my students. So, but it worked out great, because all these employers, the people that were at the meetings, they were able to get that one-on-one time with my students. So it was like, hey, look, if you go to the section meeting with me, you don't have to, it's purely volunteer, but I promise you it'll be worth it. So, it ended up becoming a really, really good thing, because, I quote unquote drug my students to these meetings, and they had a really good time.
Yeah.
And they were able to meet and network with all these individuals, whether or not they were able to get a job, that's beside the point. Their name was out there, and that's one of the biggest things, like you said, is doing that initial, putting yourself out there. That's the hardest thing especially for younger people that are trying to get into the field. Once they do that, I think everything starts to become a little easier. So, yeah.
Yeah, one thing I used to do, or have my guys still do, when we go on our monthly tours, is I have them write up their resumes, and they'll put them in envelopes and go, when we go visit these places, if it's somewhere they're interested in, leave their resume at the door. I mean, it puts a big impression on that individual that student was, thinking that far ahead, that, they had all their paperwork there with them ready to go. So, I mean, biggest thing for my students that I like is it gives them the ability to network outside of the normal area. So in our section, the St. Louis section, we cover, we're 4 hours from top to bottom, left to right. So it's a big, big area. So my students get so used to just doing the same 10 companies that are within 5 miles of their house. So this gives them the ability to go and check out places that they wouldn't normally be able to see, normal companies in St. Louis that they don't know anything about, or they do something a little bit cooler than what they're used to seeing. So it's really exposing them to all the options that are out there in the welding industry, because it's a humongous industry with gobs and gobs of careers that are available to them. So,
and then are you guys go ahead, Steph.
I was going to say another really important thing that I think if you are an instructor and you're listening to this, or you are a student listening to this, is, well, one, every section is different. Every section holds different style meetings and what have you. But every section, if you go to a meeting, is going to have people who are employed in the welding industry, and that probably have some type of connection to hire. But the best thing about taking students, if you are an instructor, or if you are a student and gathering up some of your fellow, classmates and going off to a meeting and finding out about that. But if you're an instructor, it gives you an opportunity to kind of, help your students with breaking the ice a little bit. I know this is probably, I'm sounding like such a mom right now, but I think for me and my students, when I would take them to these events and stuff, sometimes they just need somebody there to kind of not hold their hand literally, but just kind of like have their back a little bit and get them through that walk in the door and start shaking hands. Sometimes I would be like, I know I'd be at, say we're at RC Fabrication out here in Jersey, and I had a couple of kids who were really good at whatever this particular process that this company was needing to hire for. And I remember like looking at the couple of kids that would come, and I'd be like, hey, this is my student Cody, and kind of make that introduction there. And as awkward as they would be at first, it would start giving them confidence to start shaking hands and getting out there. And, the next meeting wouldn't be so difficult for them. So I think there's a lot to be said about, kind of being that coach and being that advocate at these meetings for your students as well. And it's a great opportunity. I mean, it's a free thing that you can go and do. I mean, your students don't even have to be AWS members to go and attend most of these meetings. So it's a good thing to get them out there and do. And obviously student memberships, some sections will do a handful of memberships and pay for them. And other sections, I think it's only like $15 for a student membership. And I think it's worth its weight in gold, especially if you're a student looking for a job, or if you're an instructor. It's what is it, $88 now for a membership?
Yeah, I think renewal's $88.
I mean, to get an opportunity to potentially, I think it's like something like that. But I think to get opportunities to like really help. I mean, if you're an instructor, you should really be invested in your students' futures. I mean, just going there and doing your, collecting your paycheck every week and going home, I think you're doing your students a disservice. It doesn't take much to go to one meeting a month. I don't know. I can't imagine what changes I was able to help with, my students with their confidence with going out there. And, I think it's all good. There's nothing negative I can say that's ever come out of going to a meeting with my students. So
no, and they're great. And like you said, like for students, I used to bring my students all the time, but I would warn the chairman ahead of time, couple weeks before the meeting, and be like, hey, I'm coming up, but I'm bringing like 20 something students with me. Because after I brought the first handful and they came back and we were all talking about it in class the next day, then the rest of them are like, hey, I want to go do that. And like I said, from where we were at, it was like a 2-hour drive, but you've got the meeting, it's free to attend. So there's no charge at the door. I mean, you spend a little bit of time. They usually have some sort of food there, whether it's pizza, subs, whatever, so they're going to feed you. We had different raffles and everything. So they would raffle off like flow meters and torch kits and like all kinds of different stuff. And then like with our section, we kind of adopted the same principle from North Central Florida is we do 10 student memberships per meeting. So if you show up and you're just a student, you don't have an AWS member, we pass out free tickets, to everybody, all the students, and then we'll draw 10 of them at the end of the night. And then our section covers, the cost of that membership free of charge for the student. And plant tours. So a lot of people, they can't take their students out to do a plant tour or a technical demonstration or have, an instructional talk, have somebody, a subject matter from the industry come in and talk, to the body or to the section themselves and kind of about, we attended a good one with Sandvik stainless steel filler metals. And I was like, oh man, this guy's getting into some deep stuff. I'm going to lose my students here in a minute. But they were paying attention. They were into it, because we were getting ready to be in talking about stainless in class, and they were all excited about it. So, I mean, that's information that I didn't have the knowledge and the background of. But this guy, he's like a professional metallurgist. He gave him the information. And again, it was free. I was able to, supplement some of my current topics and instruction through just attending a section meeting. So now they're learning more about welding outside of class. I always try to tell them that, look, there's more to welding than what's underneath the hood. So once you flip that hood up, try to stay active and, surround yourself by other like-minded individuals who are driven to improve in their career and in their professions and stuff. I mean, have you guys pretty much found that, very similar?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So one of the things that I absolutely loved doing was with our welding inspection course that we taught in our program. I personally was friends with multiple people that owned their own businesses, that it was metallurgy labs or it was a training facility or whatever. So I would take my classes to those different labs. So, not only did they get a chance if they went to a section meeting to be able to network, but then whenever I took them on these field trips, to show, okay, this is what we've been going over, this is what we've been talking about. Now you're going to actually see a Sharpie V-notch test being performed. Now you're going to actually see when, prepping a test plate. You're going to be able to see it, get to put your hands on it. And whenever I would take them, it started off, I'm going to stand in the back of the classroom like this. And then all of a sudden they start seeing these things and it starts sparking interest and they start speaking up and they start asking questions. So, they were able to be able to meet these employers, these guys that I knew, and ask them questions and, network kind of that way, because it was a good, instead of me just standing up in a classroom and talking about stuff, it was a way for them to really get the feel for exactly what it was that we were talking about and they were learning about. But also, it was a good opportunity for them to network because they were asking all these questions and showing interest to these employers or potential employers. And to me, that always made me feel good, and like how Steph was just saying, I always felt like I was the buffer. So, I was there for my students to support them, but they were always too timid to speak. Well, not all of them. I had a couple that were very outgoing, but most of them were too timid to want to go up because well, I'm a nobody, I'm just a student, so then I would step in and I would be that buffer and I would make the introduction and then I would just step back and watch, and just like what you said, Steph, that it made me feel like a proud papa, because I'm trying to help get these guys and girls into a good paying, solid career to where they can make a wonderful living for themselves and for their future families. So that always made me feel so good, just being able to see that.
And to kind of build off that, one of the things I've always liked to do when we go on these tours is you always talk to the students kind of as you're walking around doing that kind of stuff. Then they'll ask me something I'm like, well, just ask them. Well, no, it's too dumb of a question. So a lot of times what I'll end up doing is I'll ask the dumb question, and then everybody will start to open up at that point, because nobody wants to be the first one to ask, or, that I don't want to sound stupid if I do ask this question. But most of those guys, when you're going through these tours, they want those questions so that it makes them feel like everybody's paying attention. So just being that, like you said, and Steph said, being that buffer of getting something going, where, getting the conversation flowing, as the instructor, that's part of my job, is to ask the dumb questions, kind of thing. Yeah. So,
and then if you're active in your career as a welder or an inspection, you get to meet other people that are in that realm. So, like, for instance, I've had to get, I kind of do some weld consultations and stuff on the side. But, I don't have all the equipment to do WPS testing. Well, it just so happens that I know a guy that owns a facility that I can reach out and call, because I met him at an AWS section meeting. So I was actually able to call up one of my buddies who owns and runs an operation up in North Florida, and then connect him with somebody down here in Central Florida that, otherwise they would have never met. So through that networking opportunity, I'm able to kind of branch out our network and go a little bit further, and then drum up some business for that other, the gentleman that I met at the AWS section meeting. And then I've had people call me up and be like, hey, so-and-so, he said he knows you. And it's somebody that I met, through a section meeting, and they kind of drum up business for me. So, your network, it just keeps expanding and expanding. Once you get in there, like, welding is such a small community, and it's a tight knit group. But there's just so many, you can't be a master of everything. So it's good to know somebody that runs an inspection lab. So if you need to get plates done, or you need to build a WPS, or you have to get something written, or, metal suppliers and stuff. You got other, there's just so many different aspects of welding, and they all meet up. I think our section usually meets up once a quarter. We try to do 5 meetings a year, so we, throw a bonus one in there. But you just start bringing the community together, and I think it's another way to build things up stronger within the welding community, but it's also another way to advance your career, get further along in your profession. Had I not become or joined up with the AWS, I highly doubt that I would have ever pursued my CWI. I just don't think that would have been in the cards for me. But once I got in there, I started asking more questions, because, you go to an AWS meeting, there's usually a pretty good handful of CWIs in the meeting with you. So then I got to ask them questions. Hey, where'd you do your training? Hey, what areas should I study? What should I expect come test day? You get to speak with people that have already been down that path. And I've never met up with anybody that wasn't willing to share that information, freely. And they're always willing to help you out. And they're like, hey, this is what you need to study. Go get you a copy of this book, read through this, the information is just, it's there. All you got to do is ask the questions. But it's all about networking. And then, now you have other people you can call up, when you get in a jam. Not only that, we meet up at FabTech once a year. So that's kind of like, that's our family reunion. This group right here is
100%. Absolutely.
Probably, like a couple months before last week we were talking about, hey, what room are you getting where? Because we're all planning on going to FabTech in Chicago, so we can.
Jeremy has all the hotels covered.
Jeremy's got all the rooms covered. He usually, I don't know. Do you do that just to so, you've got one room to sleep in, one room to, party in, or,
cover all my bases.
Just cover all your bases. Yeah, so part of my network is if I know that I can just roll into either Chicago or Atlanta or Las Vegas, and if I don't have a room because the hotels are already booked, I can just call up Jeremy and be like, hey, let me get one of your spare rooms.
Hey, that's what we did with Travis.
I literally did that 2 years ago.
I know, that's what I'm saying. But I think
I drove one year, and then nobody had to get a rental car because I was driving everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, look, if it wouldn't have been for Steph, I would have been in trouble a couple years ago in the Atlanta one, because I had booked at a hotel, but I was supposed to be staying at another hotel. Go figure. So I called her up and I was like, hey, what you up to? And she goes, oh, I'm just in town. I said, can you do me a favor? So she drove to that hotel, picked me up, and drove me to the other hotel. And I was like, oh my God.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then didn't we have to go looking, because it was, we had the one AWS banquet thing, and we didn't have anything to wear. And the year before that, we went in there in like work clothes and grungy sweatshirts. We were mortified when we walked into this like super schwanky, and we're like,
that was the first year we decided to go. Yeah. We all got there the same night. We're like, let's go to the president, or no, it was what do they call the reception, the AWS reception or whatever. So we're like, oh yeah, let's go in there, and like we all got just walking there like a bunch of welders, and there's like people walking around in suits and bow ties, and I was like, they're not even gonna let us in the door.
I was so embarrassed. We were hiding in the corners waiting for someone to come over with food.
Yeah. Made me feel really proud to be a Mississippian walking in there.
Well, thank God when I talked to Jeremy, he's like, oh, yeah, I know this is affordable, so make sure you got a suit. So I had to dust my suits out of my closet. I ain't been worn in a decade probably. So
yeah, so I walk in and I've got a pretty decent looking sweater. And then he walks in a suit. And I'm like, well, I feel severely underdressed now.
It always pays to be the last one through the door. No, I wore a polo. Like that's as dressed up as I got because I didn't bring a suit. But I mean, now we know. And then the next one we went to, we all.
I finally stepped up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and see, my goal. Yeah, my goal for next year is to overdress and make Travis to where he's like, man, I feel underdressed. That's what my goal is.
We should all just do zoot suits or something.
Yeah, there you go. The Dumb and Dumber suits where we all got different colors.
There you go. No, but
I got the orange.
Nice.
But I think that was kind of the cool part of the event, because even though all of us except for Travis was underdressed, the fact that like we're still able to engage and talk to all these people, because a lot of them that we were talking to were from AWS or other areas that we met, as they're already part of our network. So we got to speak with it, and like nobody shunned us, nobody, because everybody at one point in that room has struck an arc. They've been a welder. They've been in that same exact situation. And it's just kind of like, again, one big family reunion. We're all there because we're all interested in welding.
The other cool things about some of the stuff that the AWS does put on at FabTech is that, so you have your section meetings, which is a lot of like the local people, but then you go to these like that event, the presidential, the new incoming presidents, they have the big, ball thing for him. And this sounds terrible because I work for the AWS and I don't even know what the event is called.
It's the reception.
But anyhow,
it's the reception.
President's dinner.
And it's just it's the most fabulous night. And the cool thing is that, so you have your stuff that you do at your section and district level, and then you go to this at FabTech, and it's an opportunity to meet some of the most successful people in our industry. And it's the people that do wear the suits and ties, but it's the people that I think, me personally, I think all of us can agree, we all aspire to be, the best of the best in our industry, or, own some type of fantastic company that's, making waves in the industry, or, we all want more out of our lives, I would hope. But I just love going there and getting to talk to some of these people about their careers, and then they give me advice and say, hey, here's my card. If you ever need anything, reach out. Like, these people are so nice, and it's awesome to feel like, after meeting you guys and then kind of gaining confidence within the organization, getting my job with the organization, and then now going to these events and meeting these people, it constantly drives me to want to do better and do bigger and cooler things and, impress, and it's a pretty powerful thing that once you get into this, this community, I think all of us kind of help each other and lift each other up. And no matter what, I know I can turn at any given moment, no matter what happens in my career with AWS or at home, I can pick up the phone and call one of you guys and be like, hey, I need help, or this is what's going on. And, it's a pretty awesome thing. And I don't think I could have gotten that from anywhere else.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree with you. It's like, if I were to pack up and leave today and, travel to another state, I know that I could call, like if I landed in Louisiana, I could call him Jeremy and be like, hey man, do you guys have any jobs in the area? And he'd be able to refer me to somebody to get lined out with employment. Same thing with, Travis or Stephanie. Yeah. And likewise, if you guys ever came down to Orlando, I'd know exactly where to help you, start looking for a job or even place you before you get here. So, I mean, I think, and it's really cool because I've never been to St. Louis. I've never been to Jersey. I don't plan on going to Jersey. Sorry, Steph. I've driven through Louisiana, but had I not went to one of these AWS meetings, I wouldn't know any of y'all. And then we've got like Hugo, he's up in PA, and then, you know, Scott, he's out, where the hell's Scott from? Oklahoma. Yeah. So, I mean, like if I go anywhere of these places, you know, I could end up, I've got somebody in that area that could refer me. Hey, you know, look into this company, and, you know, you could vouch for me, or I could vouch for y'all. So, I mean, it's just part about building up that network. And if I have questions on some sort of inspection methods, I can reach out to Jeremy. I've had, I've reached out to Travis for different CNC cut files because he's still an educator. He's working in the class. I'm in the class. You know, we've exchanged plasma cutting files or curriculum in the past. Same thing with Steph. You know, she's reached out to me, and I've reached out to her for different things. And it's things I wouldn't have access to if I just limited my network to, you know, the 15-mile radius around my house or my job.
Right.
So I think the more people you interact, the more people you interact with, the bigger your network gets. You know, it's just insane. Just by going to one section meeting, it compounds every single time.
Yeah. And then there's other things too that the AWS has. I mean, not to boast my, you know, what I do for the AWS, but we do have the Careers in Welding trailer, and, you know, we take that thing out on the road for 18 weeks a year, and we're in all different states, all different cities, you know, from one weekend to the next. I've been last year, you know, in 2020, I actually was scheduling an event around down by where Jeremy's at, you know, so again, networking through this, I was able to connect with instructors in that area and figure out where we can host an event. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I'm trying to make it happen this year. And back in 2019, I saw Travis, what was it, Illinois State Fair?
Yep,
and
Illinois
then
State
same
Fair,
year, same year I was down in Florida at, the Sun and Fun Fly-In event.
Yeah, the Sun and Fun over in Lakeland.
I had a bunch of Jason's. Yeah, I had a bunch of your students there. I had another instructor's students there. Every event, I'm meeting all these students and hopefully, you know, giving them some good advice, hopefully, maybe.
Pass on scholarships.
It's really, you know, the cool thing about the trailer is that if you are listening to this and you don't want to go to one of your meetings and you happen to see where the trailer's at, you know, come out, volunteer, be a part of it. You don't have to be a member to volunteer and start networking. And these students, I think they leave there with a lot of valuable information, and there's opportunities to get scholarships on the trailer. We give away welding helmets and, you know, different machines and all types of cool stuff. And I think, you know, the AWS has really come a long way with trying to reach out to the community of welders. And there's just so many different avenues, from Leadership Symposium, Instructors Institute, monthly meetings, the trailer, the Weld Wednesdays that you're doing now. Instagram, I think, has gotten better. We just started the new ARC Academy for YouTube, and it's going to, you know, help with just basic welding lessons and stuff like that. I think the AWS is doing an awesome job with wanting this community of welders to really join forces and you know, really, I think of myself as trying to pass things on to the next generation. I can't believe it. You know, I can't believe I'm this old now that I can feel like I'm saying that, right? But it's the truth. I think the AWS has really come a long way, and it's doing a fabulous job with networking opportunities within the organization.
No, 100%. That's one thing that I wish I had the opportunity afforded to me when I was in high school. I mean, we did Skills USA. It was VICA at the time. But I didn't know anything about the AWS. Same thing as Stephanie. Like, I knew that they're the ones that write all the parameters to fail my welds, you know, while I'm trying to take that test. Yeah. And that's all I ever thought of AWS was, okay, you know, these are the people that I got to figure out a way to trick them so that I can get this cert so I can get a really good job. And it's simply not the case. It's a misnomer. And so I try to get my students actively involved, you know, even potential students that are coming into the program. I'm like, hey, you know, if you're interested in, if you know you want to do welding as a career, because, I mean, you can kind of tell when they walk through the door and you have a conversation with them, if they're doing it, you know, just, oh, I've always wanted to learn, or, you know, I'm coming in, I want to make a career out of this because I want to build this, that, the other thing, or I want to get into this line of work. I always encourage them, go ahead, get online, aws.org, and click on the foundation tab and start filling out an application. Get a scholarship to come in. I mean, it's ridiculously easy, you know, to get an AWS scholarship. You know, depending on which level you're going for. I mean, obviously, if you want to get into weld engineering and stuff like that, there's going to be a little bit more meat inside of that application process. But just for like welder training, I mean, I think it's like name, date of birth, address, just your demographics, what school you're planning on attending, and a short little synopsis of why you want to attend that program. And so I always encourage them to apply for those scholarships before getting into the program to help offset that cost of tuition. But once you realize that there's so many different opportunities, I mean, if you go to aws.org and just open up the website, every one of those tabs is a list of opportunities that you can take advantage of. Some of them are, little to no cost, and then some of them are a professional cost. I mean, like you're going to pay for any other industry recognized credential. You're going to have to pay for that. You're going to have to put in, some time and effort and training and stuff like that. But everything's, it's easy to get into. It's, it's not very difficult. It's a very streamlined process, regardless of which tab you want to click on and what area you want to get into.
Well, when you talk about the scholarships too, they've updated that system now. So now everything is a 1-point access.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a section scholarship, district scholarship, national scholarship, you fill out one application and it will automatically enroll you for anything that you're eligible for. So you don't have to now fill out 3 or 4 applications. You do it once, you're applied for everything that you could, potentially be awarded. So
what I want to go around just real quick and kind of see, what are some of the opportunities you've been afforded because of the network you developed through AWS? So I'll start off with, let's go with Jeremy. What are some of the opportunities that you've come across that you've been able to do through your networking, or somebody you met with at an AWS section meeting?
Oh gosh. So before I had even graduated college, because I, as a student, went to a section meeting because of my amazing welding instructor, I was offered a job and I hadn't even graduated. The guy gave me his card and said, when it gets close to you graduating, give me a call if you're interested. Well, me being me and me being completely impatient, I called him a couple weeks later and I was like, hey, you remember meeting me? I don't know if y'all, and he's like, of course I remember meeting you. I said, well, did your offer still stand? And he goes, oh, you already graduated? I said, no, but I wanted to see what we could do. So what I ended up doing is I ended up commuting a couple days a week to Baton Rouge because I was in Mississippi at the time. So I was going to class 2 days a week, and then 3 days a week I was in Baton Rouge and I was working for this guy. And then once I graduated, I went full time to work for him. That was the first. That was my kind of slide into everything. But it was all because of networking through an AWS meeting. That I was able to honestly get into this field because a guy met me because I'm me and I'm very outgoing, and he saw that I wanted it, that I wasn't just there to be there because I got a free meal. I was there because I really truly wanted it. I wanted to make a career. So, that was my first instance of it. Being able to go to the Instructors Institute, and then a couple years later, being able to go to the Leadership Symposium. Those were two probably of the biggest opportunities that I've had with AWS. To be able to go to those, to be able to meet all these amazing people from across the country, to be able to get to know the actual people at headquarters, it's to me, it's priceless. That has been the biggest plus in my networking career is, knowing that, like a couple days ago, I got an email, just a random email from a guy that said, hey, I saw that you're the chairman for the Baton Rouge section, which I'm not anymore, but they haven't updated the list. But he said, look, I saw that you're the chairman of the Baton Rouge section and I need help. My CWI is coming up to where I need to renew it, but I don't know exactly what I need to do. And I emailed him back. I was like, hey, I got you covered. I don't even know this guy, but I immediately emailed Ephraim at AWS, and I copied the guy in and I said, look, this is a great guy. He will absolutely take care of you. I've got all the faith in the world in this guy. And the next day he was taken care of, but again, it's because I was able to network. It's because I was able to go to headquarters and actually meet, and hug these people, and get to know all these people, that I was able to be that throughput, that I was able to help somebody out that I'd never even met, because of being able to network.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that's a couple of instances that I'm truly grateful for.
And Travis, same thing.
Yeah, so I came into this industry kind of a different way than all of you guys. I came in from the agriculture side. So, when I was in school, when I went to college, I was an ag kid, so we didn't have welding specifically in college. It was just an ag mechanic. So you did welding and electricity, electronics, and plumbing and all that kind of stuff. So, you're always aware of kind of what's going on with, you hear about AWS, things like that. But once I got into the, specifically teaching welding full time at the college, I really started to focus more on the AWS. And once I got going, I got in there, I decided, I need to get my CWI. So I got my CWI, got my CWE, got all this kind of stuff where, I got all the credentials I needed, to make sure that I was teaching my students the best way possible to make them the best welders moving forward, kind of thing. But the biggest thing that I see is most of the high schools that I have in my area are ag programs. So they teach welding as part of agriculture because, most of these kids, guys and gals, are working on farms and fixing equipment, stuff like that. Most of the time it's you got to weld it together, get it fixed to get it out of the field and finish before the rain comes, all that kind of stuff. So trying to get these ag teachers in my area up to snuff on, not only just getting the work done right, but getting it where it can work, So one of the big things that I want to focus on is my, kind of like Steph talked about, making ourselves better moving forward, is when I did my master's degree, my research was on Lincoln's Vertex 360 and how can we integrate softwares like that or programs or equipment like that into training so we can save money, save time, all that kind of stuff. Well, my next step moving forward is I'm applied for my PhD program. So I'm going to continue that same research, but through networking, through the Instructors Institute and all that kind of stuff, I met Nick Peterson, which you guys all did too. He works for Miller.
Oh yeah. So
we now have at the college, we partner with Miller, and we have a full classroom set of AUG arcs. We've got 12 of them. We've got 4 live arcs. So we've got an entire classroom of this technology. Well, my goal is working with Miller and through my PhD program is I'm actually going to do long-term research on these, pieces of equipment. Do they work? How does it save money? All that kind of stuff. That would have never been possible if I wouldn't have gone to the instructors conference, if I wouldn't have gone to my first, section meeting just out of the blue kind of thing. Just so you don't even know what you're going to meet or who you're going to meet or what you're going to network with when you go. It's just making that first step of going is the biggest thing. And so now, the shop kid from high school is now talking about getting a PhD. So, I mean, that's huge when you think about, the kids that I graduated high school with. I've got a lot of my buddies that are, MD doctors and PhD doctors and stuff like that. And they always called me all the time because they needed their truck fixed or they needed something welded up or they wanted a barbecue grill or whatever. But so just through this networking, now that guy that fixes this stuff is now talking about, getting a PhD as part of that ordeal. So, I mean, that's just, in my mind, it's just unthinkable, so.
So it's going to be Dr. Jumper pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up with Dr. Planet,
Yeah.
He can't be the only.
That's another cool thing is like meeting Dr. Rick Planet, who's, slated to be one of the next AWS presidents, who's also written some of the textbooks that I actually teach out of. So Dr. Rick Planet, he's also part of our network because he was one of the instructors at the Institute. And we sat down and we had dinner with this man. We talked to him, when we all showed up, looking like a bunch of welders at the AWS president's dinner, and he was there in his tux, he reached up and greeted all of us because, he knew who we were as part of the network.
Yeah.
So that's just another person in our network that, I've have, the fortunate opportunity to be able to reach out to him and talk to him at some points. And then, run into him at Fab Tech and everything. So, I mean, it's just a really cool, to be able to reach that, those individuals and pick their brains on certain things, because they've been in it a lot longer than we have, so they're going to be able to teach us things, some of the mistakes they made along the way, and kind of pass that information down, just very similar to what we're doing with our students. We take that information, we pass it down to the students. And, I think building your networking, having access to those types of people, you wouldn't get it anywhere else. I would have never met any of those other individuals had I not actively got involved.
Well, and I think with me, and I don't mean to jump in stuff, but I think with me, it's almost like I feel like I know celebrities,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Like, seriously, because every single month I would get the Welding Journal and I would look for my friends.
Yes, I still do it.
I'd be so excited. I'd be like, I know this person. Like, you see that's Stephanie. I know her, or that's Becker. I know him. Or, hey, look, there's Travis's, so I would get so excited. And I remember one Welding Journal, Dr. Rick was on there, and it was a write-up. And I showed my wife. I was so excited. I was like, I know this guy. He's so funny. He's so cool. And I kept going on. And she turns to me and she goes, "That's great, sweetheart." Like,
she don't get it. She doesn't understand.
She just didn't get it. But to me, it's like, I feel like I have been blessed to meet all of y'all. And to me, it's almost like that feeling of, yep, I know that celebrity, and I know this person. And I'm constantly telling people about y'all, and where else how would I have the opportunity to be able to get to meet y'all, if none of this was available? So.
Yeah. And then Steph, same thing. What are some of the opportunities that you've gotten out of your AWS networking?
Well, I mean, dating back towards when I was in high school, sitting there being, terrified of every time I heard the word AWS and testing, and, flash forward, and then I'm an instructor and I'm getting my students out to meetings, to having my district director, think that what I was doing was so great that he wanted to send me off to, the leadership symposium to become district director. And prior to that, I went to the Instructors Institute. And, at leadership, I guess it probably even started at Instructors Institute. And I had no idea I didn't even know people were taking notice. Here I am chirping about how, the change even welding instructors need to be taking in their approaches of teaching, have a degree in education. And it kind of came in handy. Not a ton of welding instructors really have, degrees in education, so to speak. So, I was, implementing a lot of what I learned in college, and, cooperative learning and all different teaching techniques, and, saying how we can apply that to welding instructors across the board. And then, the change within the organization that I thought needed to happen. And then that really came up, I guess, at leadership, and people within the organization started to take notice of, like, who is this crazy blonde haired chick just yapping her brains out about everything that's wrong with us. And, a couple months later, we have Fab Tech, and we're meeting all these same people again, and just, here I'm just can't get that jersey out of me where I just speak my mind, right? And very East Coast of me. I'm a little brash. So some, John Douglas in particular, I guess, took notice of the things that I was saying and yapping away, and an opportunity arose in the organization for, somebody to represent the AWS on the Careers in Welding trailer. And, it changed my life. I never thought I would be anything but just a welder. And then I became a welding instructor, and I thought that was such a big thing. I thought that was a dream come true to, pass on my skills to others. And then I got this job where now I get to spread my knowledge across the country, 18 weeks a year, interacting with students from all over the place. And it's been an absolute blessing, to say the least. And to think of me, 13, 14 years old, learning how to weld, and, 20 years later, I'm the face of this organization that scared the crap out of me. This organization never had somebody like me. And to think that, I'm the person doing that, I mean, it's been an unbelievable opportunity, and it's all 100% because of networking and going and putting myself out there. What do they always say, right? what is it, like you miss 100% of the opportunities you don't take a shot at, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. So, and I mean, it holds true with everything. I mean, Jesus, what do you have to lose from going to a meeting and putting yourself out there and taking a shot? And I mean, from the Careers in Welding trailer to now go on, and I'm part of the Art Academy stuff that we're putting together to help people, at home, DIYers and stuff, trying to learn how to weld. And now we have the first ever, virtual Women in Welding conference that we're putting together, and that's going to be coming out in March. And, being able to really go gung-ho with my company, Underground Metalworks, and it's 100% all been because of the opportunities that the AWS has put in front of me, and be able to grow my career and inspire others. And, it's led to even more opportunities, which I can't talk about yet, but keep your eye on Netflix. And it's been, an overwhelming ride that the AWS has provided me. And like Jeremy, I feel like I am, I don't think I could ever express my gratitude towards the people that work for the AWS and the community within the membership community. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm done rambling.
Well, but I want to build kind of off of what Steph said, because during FabTech, they have that Women in Welding luncheon or breakfast or whatever. And Jeremy and I went to it last year, or
we
2
were
years
the
ago.
only two guys.
The only two guys in there, two red-bearded guys walk in. And I mean, everybody that was in there was like, thank you so much for, supporting us females in the welding industry. We're like, absolutely. That was a fantastic meeting. Yeah, absolutely. So, and that, one of the speakers was one of the ladies from John Deere, which for me, I mean, coming from the ag industry, that's huge, because, not only just agriculture in general, but building those machines, which is just, maybe 3 hours north of where I am now. I mean, getting women to get into those facilities and start to build those, the tractors and the combines and all that kind of stuff is a big deal. It's huge.
Yeah.
No, 100%.
Yeah. And this new conference that we're putting on is so that conference at FabTech, I don't think was directly an AWS Women in Welding conference, but the one that we're doing, we have people, Christina Harris, she's Stilettos and Steel Toes on Instagram, and we have Barbie the Welder. She's going to be a part of it, one of our speakers. And then there's some other, pretty successful women in industry, Becky Tusher, and I'm drawing a blank on the other one. I'm very sorry. And it's going to be a great opportunity, and it's our first kind of stab at, bringing together the community of women within our industry, and from all different levels of industry. So we have people who are self-made, we have entrepreneurs, we have successful people on the business end. So it's really a great opportunity for us as women who are also, mothers and single parents, and, you got to, I was late to this podcast almost because I was busy cooking dinner, and my husband thinks the alarm's going off because I need to turn the meat, but it's just, it's, I hope that this is going to open up even more opportunity to people in all different, different realms of the industry, and hopefully it's all good stuff that people keep finding the AWS doing. So if anybody out there has any suggestions, feel free to send them our way. We might listen.
Well, and so something that I've noticed, and again, I've been part of AWS since 2005. Something that I've noticed, especially lately, and I think it's a wonderful thing, is the AWS is trying to get younger, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they're actually they're approaching younger people. They're trying to get that new point of view, the point of view of the younger audience, which is fantastic, because I think before, and I'm not downplaying what they've been doing, but I think before they were more focused on the older crowd, the higher end crowd, the oh, well, we're up here with the metallurgy and all that kind of stuff. Whereas now they're trying to open it up to where they're not only catering to that, but they're showing that they're trying to attract the younger crowd, the younger crews,
Yep.
getting people to where, okay, look, we are an organization that we do believe in helping everybody, and
Yep.
having stuff on board, and trying to do new approaches, and actually listening, and trying to build upon something like that. I think it's fantastic, because again, whenever I first started, I thought it was a great organization, but I didn't really see anybody like me, and
Yeah.
and so I think with especially with Stephanie being, and we keep saying it, Stephanie being the face of the organization, because you really are. I think it's fantastic, because we are weird tattooed freaks, some of us, and I love that, and that it makes me feel like I'm home, makes me feel like I'm welcome, and it's not just
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about, oh, that's just an organization for stuff shirts that they're using all these 50-cent words. Well, it's not that, so I think it's fantastic.
No, that's great. And that's why I wanted to get, the four of us together, because we've all had a different journey, different outcomes, different inputs. But I mean, we all come back to the same thing, is having our network, getting involved. That's kind of what brought us closer together, and it opened up a lot of doors in a short amount of time. I mean, you think about it, almost 5 years ago is when we all met. And, now Stephanie's the spokesperson, or the face of the AWS. And I mean, you can just, everybody's kind of gone a different path, and we're all continuing to grow, and as we meet up at FabTech for our family reunion every year, we get to talk about, the different things that are happening, what we've done this year to kind of progress, and further advance our career. And I think that's one thing we also, all of us have in common, is we're driven to take that next step in our career further. Every single time, we're checking boxes and setting goals, and going through and continuously helping each other to grow as well along the way.
Yep. Well, and I remember whenever you contacted me, what was it, maybe a year ago, asking about my CWS, if I had any CWS stuff, because you were thinking about trying to go ahead and go towards that, and that offer's still there. I found all my paperwork. So got my books and paperwork. But yeah, I mean, exactly what you were saying. We're here to build each other up. And I'm not happy with sitting at a desk for the next 20, 30, 40 years. That's not me. I'm not happy standing still. I want to keep moving. I want to keep bettering myself. And if anybody that I can do the same thing for, absolutely. I'll do anything in my power to do that for someone. So yeah. I love whenever I get to see y'all doing great, and see the next thing that you're working on, and see how we're constantly always sharing stuff. To me, I feel good, because that's a family member of mine that is just doing awesome. And I couldn't be prouder.
No,
I actually took a picture that Steph sent. That she had one of her students build a bench out of an old tailgate, and so one of my students came up and said, "Hey, I got this old tailgate. I want to do something with it." So I showed him that picture Steph sent to us, and he built a similar bench just using a project that Steph had one of her. Because I'm not the type of person that has an artistic eye in the slightest. Now, if you want me to build you something and be able to shoot it with a tank, I got you covered. But it's going to look like a tank. It ain't going to look good. So there's a lot of stuff that I see Steph build that, like, it wouldn't even cross my mind how to do that, but it's so beautiful the way she does it. It's like, okay, I can kind of do something similar maybe, but it gives me ideas because I'm not that artistic type of person. So
yeah.
No, it's just an awesome opportunity. I want to thank you guys all for coming out, sharing your stories. I'm looking forward to September, because FabTech's in September this year. So I'm looking at seeing all of you. No, come on. No, we can't go 2 years without Fab. If that happens, we got to meet up somewhere else. There's got to be a bar centrally located, or something. a section meeting, maybe centrally located to all of our positions. We got to meet up this year at some point.
Louisville.
Hopefully it's
Louisville.
FabTech. There we go.
I'm down. You tell me when and where, and I'll be there.
Jeremy's parents live there, so we got a place to crash.
Okay, that works. No, I'm really hoping that FabTech kicks off this year in Chicago. I'm really looking forward to it. Like I was telling you guys, I recently submitted a survey stating that I'm definitely planning on attending. I think they're trying to get a feel for who's comfortable going in there. But yeah, I'm ready to go. So I mean, that's another great opportunity to get in there and network with other welders, other fabricators, artists, whatever you're aspiring to be in the welding community, you're going to meet somebody at FabTech that's going to be able to help you along your journey. And like I said before, everybody's more than willing to help out, because we've already been in that spot, so any information that we have, we've been passing it off to the younger generation a lot easier than it was, given to us. I think that, kind of growing up in this industry, the information came down at a trickle. And we just, opened up the faucet and busted the handle off. And, we're willing to give anything and everything to help that next generation of welders and fabricators and artists and metal workers and everything, aspire to be much more and help them along their journey.
Absolutely.
So before we get out of here, does you guys want to go ahead and plug your social media, let people know where they can find you? If somebody's interested in taking courses up there over at Lewis and Clark, or getting some inspection services done down in Louisiana. So we'll go ahead. Let's start with Stephanie.
All right. Well, you guys can find me on Instagram. It's Underground Metalworks. Or you can always find me through the AWS, American Welding Society Instagram page. I also have a YouTube channel. It's Underground Metalworks. I have a TikTok account. That's just Underground Metal. And I have Facebook. It's same crap, Underground Metalworks. Or you can just type my name in. You'll find me somewhere. But yeah, that's about all I got.
Okay, Jeremy?
Let's see if I can remember it. I think my Instagram is lurchdog023. I think. Maybe.
That sounds familiar.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that one. But yeah, the other thing is because of COVID, we were doing physical classes for my inspection business that I'm doing. We were doing that at a college, but because of COVID, we couldn't hold physical classes anymore. So I took and put all of our content online. So we offer online classes now for the theory, the fundamentals for, I think we have, if I'm not mistaken, I think we have 11 classes that we offer. Anything from visual testing to ultrasonic testing, radiography, radiation safety, you name it. But we do offer that online. You do not have to be a resident in Louisiana to take part in that. So if you're interested, I would absolutely love to be able to help you kind of get your foot in the door and take some classes with us. Anyway, the name of the company is GPRIES. And yeah, you can reach me on social media. I've got a Facebook page, my Instagram account, whatever. My email address is jeremy.whittemore, WHITTEMORE 023@gmail.com. If you're interested, if you'd like to see about enrolling into a class, or if you just want to get information from us, that'd be great too.
Okay, and Jumper?
Yeah, so mine's pretty simple. I'm on Facebook at Travis Jumper. My Instagram's at Travis Jumper. It's pretty simple, but like I said, if you're in the greater St. Louis area and you're interested, all of our hands-on stuff is all in person. We're allowed to be in person with masks and all that kind of stuff. But if you're interested, our college website is lc.edu, so lewisandclark.edu. We have 11 different options. You can do associate's degree, all that kind of stuff. So we do the main, stick, MIG, TIG, flux core, plate, pipe. We do, I teach, most of the classes I teach are the CWI prep kind of classes, the testing, inspecting classes, stuff like that. So most of those are kind of a split online and in person. So, but yeah, I mean, if you're interested in classes, we can get you squared away for sure.
Well, awesome. Thank you all for coming out. I look forward to seeing you guys in September for FabTech, hopefully. If not, like I said, we'll meet up somewhere else. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to come out and chat with us and talk to everybody about your experience through networking with the AWS. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes February's episode of Weld Wednesdays with AWS. Thank you all for joining us. For more information on how you can get more active with the American Welding Society and start building your own network, go to aws.org and click on the Resources tab to find a section in your area. Thanks for listening, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.